So, I have officially watched Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I still pretty much feel the same even before I watch this film, for the most part. There will be times that I might be able to see like certain parts of the film from like a different perspective, but there won't be much of that, and it's really not going to change much how I felt about the film in general. Which, in simplest terms, I wouldn't say that it's garbage. I feel like more the right word for this is disappointing. Before I begin, there will be spoilers mentioned. This is my spoiler warning to you, and to anyone that has not watched the film yet. So I recommend you click off right now. Click off. I'm serious. Don't say I didn't warn you. Don't say I didn't warn you. So I'm going to dub this first point as classic indie. So for the first 20 minutes of the film, it was the most enjoyment I've ever had, no doubt. It had that classic Indiana Jones experience. Your action, finding off Nazi soldiers, and having some decent comedic parts. Also, it was a good placement in introducing the main artifact that is the dial. So far, pretty decent. But then it's from this point is where it starts to go, downhill. So in terms of the character development, there really wasn't much of it. You have Helena Shaw, an arrogant character that doesn't showcase really any flaws at all. And you have Jurgen Voller as the villain, and we don't get much of his motive for wanting to dial till way later, but it's quite unclear for the majority of the film. Then you have Teddy, literally useless and unimportant, to put it in the simplest terms. I just found myself not really connecting to any of these new characters. So now I'm going to go into like specific detailings. So Helena's purpose for wanting to dial? For some cash. That is it.
Bid? The bid is 50,000.
I'm gonna bid 55.
Prachtig. Who'll give me 60?
60.
60, 65?
Chatman.
65.
With Teddy, he wants to be able to fly planes, and he hasn't flown one at all when asked by Helena. But then, somehow he automatically knew how to fly one when trying to save Indy, especially during a rainstorm as well. And for Jurgen Voller, he wanted to kill Hitler and take over, which is probably like the more interesting aspect out of all the other characters, but still essentially pretty basic. So now we're going to be talking about Indy himself. So even though Indy is quite old, I can definitely see in the perspective that since he is old, he could be like that wise character that can share his experience with the side character. And really, I wouldn't have minded that. On top of that, if you were to add like an original, recognized character, in this case, I would have loved it to be Short Round, and it could have been something at least more interesting. But we didn't get that. Really, we just got an Indiana Jones that didn't really do much, and he should have been considered useless and just realistically dead in certain scenes. An example being when he was pointed at with multiple guns, and somehow he managed to dodge it, regardless how slow he dropped.
Get back!
Another being the punches that he took from the big guy, which really, he should have been knocked the fuck out. So now I want to mention a bit about the actual dial. I'm not going to say much for this. So really, the direction that they went with it felt random. They went too far back in time. And yeah, they went as far back as 212 BC during a battle. From my unofficial review, I definitely regret the statement about it being a bit interesting. Yeah, no, it's pretty close on the ridiculous scale as fucking Crystal Skull with the UFO shit. And not only that, all of this is based on mathematics, as mentioned. But really, like Indiana Jones said,
That belongs in a museum.
So now I'm gonna get into dumb moments. There were just certain moments that happened that just simply, it doesn't make any sense. So an example being how Helena went from not going along with her passion for archaeology and just wanting, to sell this dial just for some money, like I said before, and while talking bad of how Indy is and stuff, but then has a heart-to-heart moment with him during a boat scene. The mood swing is like so real. Another example being just how the bad guys they managed to keep up with Indy, Helena, and Teddy. No fail whatsoever. I have to say, those are some advanced binoculars. If it's just, if you just look at a direction that they're going to, and it's like, they're going this direction. I know where they're going. Like, what? And third one, and I think for me, this one like tops as like the stupidest thing ever. Indy, his goddaughter's father, and the villain were both on the train. Eventually, there was a wooden pole that he literally just connects with him. Literally smacks the shit out of his head while on a high-speed train, may I mind you, and survives. He's literally fun. How did you survive that? Like, I was confused at first. It's like, wait, is this the same villain from that? How are you alive? Really, certain scenes in his films with like just either don't make sense, or I feel like there's just some context missing. Like let's say for the characters example, with the example of Helena that I gave, I feel like they should have added more scenes that can further on build like a more meaningful connection with that, and then I can probably appreciate it more. But no, it just felt like scene after scene without really any sort of meaningful build up. And now I'm going to talk about the CGI. Yeah, I mean, certain parts of the chase scenes looked as bad as, like, Crystal Skull kind of bad. Ultimately, it was unfortunate, especially throughout, the certain chase scenes, like I said. It's hard to appreciate them since the Lost Ark exists. Like, come on. Now, just a little quick mention about the chase scenes. I've had some enjoyment, I'll admit. Especially, like, the one that was, like, I guess, my particular favorite, being the one where they're, like, on those little, I think, moped vehicles. I forgot the name of them. That one was probably the one that I enjoyed the most. But, I would say that it didn't necessarily have much of that, like, similar kind of charm. And not only that, like, I feel like it went on for much longer than it really should have. And it also doesn't help the fact that this film was 2.5 hours long. So really, they could have like cut this down. I feel like if they kind of condensed a bit of like the chase scenes times and other parts as well, you probably could have made at least like an hour and 45-minute film. I feel like that is, or maybe like an hour 30 to an hour 45. I think that's like the perfect sweet spot. And lastly, I'm going to touch on the actual ending of this. So even though the ending was It was pretty cute between Indy and Marianne. It was a twist that I didn't expect. So it was nice, and especially with like the kissing references from like the Lost Ark.
Where doesn't it hurt?
Here.
I just couldn't get so like satisfied with the ending that much. Like I mentioned before, there wasn't any sort of like meaningful or interesting like build up throughout the film then that led to this one moment with Indy and Marianne. It wasn't really worthy of an ending. As a whole, it was a truly disappointing movie that really should have ended with the 20-minute mark, since that was the true Indiana Jones experience. But in all seriousness, I wouldn't say this film is in the garbage territory. It just has, a generic story with missing scenes that I feel like could have fulfilled certain moments in the film, since they were quite questionable, poorly written characters, and having such CGI that generally reminds me of the Crystal Skull. So as for the rating for this film, I will give it a 4.5 out of 10. But yeah, that's been my official review for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Disappointing film. Should have ended, decades ago with The Last Crusade, but they didn't. If you guys enjoyed, and later.